All right, we are joined. We're doing something different here at Justice Served TV.
And the reason I don't want to get married is because so many men kill their wives. It's just not safe. So that's always been my plan. Stay safe, stay single.
This is Julie Lofrano, but before I actually read her bio to you, let me just tell you a little bit about how she got on this show with us. I have a friend named Joe Stapleton. He is a funny comedian. He is a comic. He is fabulous. I actually met him through poker because he does poker commentary, but he's all over, I think, the world now doing his act. And he said, texted me and said, Linda, I have a friend, and you know how this business works, friend to friend. She's a fabulous comic. She's a fabulous comedian. And she's also a fanatical true crime follower.
And anytime I go out with somebody, I always imagine I have a 50% chance, right? Like anytime I go out with you, I have a 50% chance that he's gonna murder me. I know, which is like a win-win no matter what, right? Because like, if I go out with you and you don't murder me, that was a great date. We should probably do this again.
She is a comic, she's a writer, she's an actress, and she's a good skee ball player. Something in my New Jersey boardwalk I used to do. She found her way to San Francisco through sketch and improv. She's been in Los Angeles. She's appeared at the Laugh Factory, the Comedy Store, the Ice House, many more venues. She also does national commercials, and she is a writer, wrote Whatever Happened to Gavin Buckmaster. She's done commercials. She tells jokes. And she also has a dog with her at many of her comic stand-ups. So my question to you, Julie, is why are you, because usually comedy and crime is not two words I would necessarily put together. How did you become such a crime fanatic?
I don't know the exact moment, but I will tell you one of the things that like really sparked my interest is the Scot Peterson case. That one absolutely just sucked me right in. And I mean, more recently, not the old stuff, but the new stuff about the documentary and everything that came out. And then
tell our viewers who he is in case there's somebody out there who maybe lives on Mars and doesn't know.
Scot Peterson is in prison for killing his wife, Lacey, and their unborn baby. So I grew up in Northern California. Growing up with that, I never had a doubt in my mind that he did it. And then they came out with this documentary about him and everything that happened. And it's the first time that I thought, oh, do I not know the whole story? And it just kind of started me on a different journey of seeing things differently. I have a joke that they tell that, you know, I want to be greeted by one of two people in heaven. I want to be greeted either by Scot Peterson telling me, see, I told you, or his wife being like, oh, he did it. I don't care. I just want the answer. Either way.
You want the truth. Okay.
I just want to know.
Yeah, no. So, those of us who watched it, I mean, I don't think the DNA is going to show anything different, having lived through it. I think that he did it, but that's just my own personal opinion. Mm-hmm. And you know that I do a lot of civil rights work, a lot of wrongful conviction work. As a matter of fact, the heads of the Innocence Project, Barry Neufeld and Peter Scheck, are very good friends of mine. But the LA Innocence Project is the one who has this case, not the National Innocence Project. Yes. So we'll see. But this case, Michael, I know before we get into cases in the news, I know you had some follow-up for Julie.
Well, you know, we spent a lot of time in the same hood, maybe different times. I'm from the Bay Area, and I covered the Peterson case back in the day. And then I was in Sacramento. I lived there for about 6 years. So I'm very familiar with that whole area, and I feel a bond because of that crazy part of the world. Where are you now?
I'm in LA now.
Okay, so you're not far removed from crazy. So
no, right, it's right outside the door.
That's true. Okay, so I get questions myself sometimes about. I try to blend a little humor with coverage of these cases when I'm on the Law and Crime Network or just having conversations. I think it can be done. I think it can be done in a tasteful way that reminds people that there can be humor in all things. So I appreciate what you're doing, and I wish I could do it better. But give me a sense of, okay, you're on stage, you're doing your thing, and there's a a particular case that you think resonates with your audience? How do you? What's your secret? How do you do that?
You always want to find your own truth and your own take on something. Karen Reed, I'm absolutely obsessed with, but I haven't found a way to work it into jokes yet because I don't think enough people know about it. So I can't wait for the world. I think they're going to absolutely love this because there is nothing that's been more interesting than this case. Every day was a what? Oh my gosh. Like it was so interesting. Best reality TV I've watched in years. So I tried if I can to like work something in, but you really have to have an audience that, you can bring them on that journey with you. So it might not be a specific case, but it might just be the idea of things. And that's
Yeah,
what,
so like O.J. Simpson, there was the dancing Itos, so that kind of like was a comedy that worked in without denigrating anything, except maybe the judge, which
Yeah, the
those are
judge.
try
That's all.
cases. I am Alan Jackson, who represents Karen Reed, tried the Phil Spector case. I tried the 1st Phil Spector case against him that ended up in a hung jury. So I know Alan Jackson very well and exactly who you saw him in the courtroom. He doesn't let anything lie. But what are the 3 things in Karen Reed that have stuck out with you? And then we're going to follow up with what are the 3 questions you want answered?
I'm going to do my best to limit it to 3 because it is.
I know, it's going to be a lot. Don't worry. This is only your first appearance on the show.
Yeah. 3 things that have stuck out to me. This case, like, as I said, is so compelling because when you hear it, it sounds insane that this woman is saying she's been framed just on the surface. But then as you start learning about it and you start hearing thing after thing after thing after thing, you start saying, well, maybe this isn't as crazy as I thought it was. And so that's the thing that sticks with me is all of no one saw a body coming out of that house that night, except for the girl that said she saw a blob. I call her Blob Girl now. And you've got all of the inconsistencies with the phone calls, with the butt dials, with all of this kind of stuff. But ultimately, you have these the crash daddies, the 2 guys that came that are not hired from the defense, not hired from the prosecution, part of the FBI, who came out and scientifically proved that her car did not hit a person and his body was not hit by a car. So that to me you don't get that in a case very often. You don't get an FBI offshoot with these experts coming in. Like I think that's very exciting.
You don't. I mean, Alan Jackson had to say, I just hit the lottery. I don't have to go out and hire experts or find them. I've got 2 FBI experts that said she wasn't hit. And then the own medical examiners. The question that we always had when we were doing a commentary on law and crime is, well, of course it's going to be proven. Was he hit by a car? Was he hit by was he not hit by a car? And then they get on the stand and they say, well, we don't know, could have been a dog, could have been a fight, could have been a car, so that was a surprise. So what 3 questions do you want answered if the case goes to retrial? That's a big if.
Yeah, that is a big if. I think that I would like to get a little bit more. It was on what they really think from the prosecution side, because their timeline was completely debunked. Everything, even the 1245, the timeline, was it a sideswipe? Was it this? Everything kept changing on their side of what they actually think happened. So if they could create a case that was it a sideswipe? At this point, if they said she got out of the car and hit him with a bat, that would honestly feel more accurate than some of the things that were presented. So that's what I would like to know is if there is somebody else outside of these independent witnesses, I would love to know what they actually think happened. It's very interesting how many of the troopers are now under investigation. I don't know if that'll come into the case, but I think this is a lot of very interesting stuff after the case. We know that Trooper Proctor is now, he's on his way to being, I think it sounds like fully fired and let go, but he's unpaid now. And then some others are under investigation. And then we've got I don't get past the reasonable doubt with the independent witnesses. But I think I could listen to them all day, but I'd love to know more from them mixed with the woman they brought in with the dog bites and the pathologist that they brought in because I will never know what happened, but I feel if they could go more towards that path, it seemed pretty clear that what was presented didn't match up. So I just want more answers.
think show and tell is about to happen,
Yeah,
Michael.
I was just looking for this because I thought you might appreciate. My biggest problem was the ever expanding number of pieces of this light, not this light,
Yes.
that seemed to just show up over the course of 2 weeks. I mean, it's ridiculous. First, to think that even if she did hit him with her car, that it caused the kind of damage that would create first two, then three, then I think 14 pieces. I mean, that's ridiculous. And to do it within the time frame that was presented, that's ridiculous. Then you got the inverted video where there were people near the back of that vehicle that could have done some damage. I mean, I just thought it was a mess. And you don't want to get, if you're the prosecution, the last thing you want to do is get to the end of your case and have people thinking, I have no idea what the hell happened. That's not the way to win. And that's how I think most people fell. I don't know what happened. I hear this story, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
While you guys are talking, I'm going to go get my own show
Okay.
and tell. I'll be back. Keep
Okay.
talking. I'll be
See you
back.
later.
I love show
All
and
right
tell.
then. Okay,
Yes,
so
and the taillight fairy was fascinating. I mean, just sprinkling taillight all around.
yeah, I would have a little fun with that on. I got it here somewhere. I had a bag of. There they are. I had a bag of pieces. I just kept finding them everywhere. Found some in my suit pocket. They just seem to keep multiplying. I don't understand it. So now, those three guys that are under investigation. The Proctor factor here to me was also key. But you can't try this case again with the same people that you relied on in the first case. And so what are you going to do? And the first thing you do when those names come up is they're so discredited that it's worse than not having them,
I have a question, if I'm allowed to ask you a question.
Yes.
Can I just say something? Michael, there's a new recording track has been created. That bothers me. It sounds like we're in the middle of the Karen Reed trial and they're making things up on us.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't know what that is. Okay, yes, I'll call on Julie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. From your perspective, do you think with the evidence they had, they should have brought this case forward, the prosecution?
Go ahead and start, Linda. I have my own thoughts. Go ahead.
Well, let me bring out my show and tell.
Oh, okay, wait a minute.
That is a leaf blower.
I don't have any solo cups around here. Somewhere I got some.
So my answer is, once you leaf blew, and wherever the evidence was, if there was any, is blown away into the snow, and then you use, Michael, you don't have red Solo cups, but you got a Yeti cup there or something like that. Well, I think you had to have a real talk with the family about the problems with the case. We can't prove this case. Give us time, maybe in 2 years or 3 years, maybe we can prove it. But I think that right now they shouldn't have brought it. I mean, I know the family wants answers. I have some people out there, Julie, that said, well, you know what? She must have just at least tapped him. And then he fell back in the snow. And then, when she woke up at 5 o'clock, she probably realized, hey, wait a second, did I tap him? And he fell, and then she went running back. So I have some friends who follow crime who think, well, of course she did something. She may not have intended to kill him, but she did something. So that's my answer to you. Did she do something? And does that mean that the prosecution had to wait? But the case they put on, you know what happens? Prosecutors are not used to trying cases against really good attorneys who do a case. And that's really part of the problem, I think.
I think they overcharged. I think if they had played this cleaner, if they didn't have something, which leads me to believe they really did have something to hide, but if they played it cleaner and made it about her drinking and driving and bumping into him, and then all the consequences that followed are on her at a much lesser degree than second-degree murder, then I think they got a case. But as soon as they went for, the top prize, it opened up, number one, Alan Jackson becoming involved, I have a feeling. If it had been a lesser included type, involuntary manslaughter or vehicular manslaughter with alcohol, maybe they don't get the hired guns, the big guys. But because they did, and he did the job that he did, the whole case blew up. I think overcharging was their biggest problem, and then it kind of got worse from there.
Julie, what do you think about the fact they got rid of Chloe? having a
Oh,
dog
poor
for
Chloe.
6 years, and
Rehomed.
Chloe gets rehomed. Now, around
Yeah,
here in this country,
rehomed.
I'm actually up in the country today. I'm not back in New York City. When they talk about rehoming an animal, they usually mean something. That animal was not very, very good to begin with. And Chloe put a woman in the hospital, and Chloe had bitten people. And then Chloe, the family dog, goes bye bye. What did you think about that?
It's very suspicious and odd. 6 years for an incident to all of a sudden happen and then to rehome your dog to Vermont. And no one can seem to find the dog. I know they said, oh, if you want to see the dog, we can get you the information, but it sounds like they never got the information. They also referred to all of us dog owners as it more than once. And so all of the dog owners were, how dare you call Chloe an it? She's a she. So
Do you have your
there's
dog? Do you have your dog with you?
my
Chloe
dog
didn't
is
have pronouns.
over, right? And they're usually okay about their pronouns, but still, you might miss. My dog's a she, but her name's Stevie, so she's often referred to as a he. But
Where is Phoebe? Where is it?
she's sleeping. She's sleeping in the corner. Which
Oh, that's a great co-counsel to have. That's just like
she's,
Michael. Sometimes he sleeps when I talk.
it's Lolly really just lulls everyone to sleep, so she slept for most of the case because she didn't care about the high top seating or who won the game, so she slept a lot.
So there you go. There's your comic line right there. So now, Julie, you meeting with the jury. They don't really want to talk to you because they're not comfortable. What can you say to them as a comic that'll make them comfortable? And what burning question do you have? The one question you're leading off the interview with your Today Show, the Julie Lofrano Today Show. What's the first question you ask them after you get them comfortable? What's your routine?
If I'm talking to somebody from the jury,
yeah,
I would have to know how they didn't find all the reasonable doubt in the world to have her found not guilty. That's my only question, because I've never seen more reasonable doubt in a case in my life. I don't think. I mean, and I don't know if if you've ever seen a case like this. I mean, from leaf blowers to solo cups to horrid text messages to rehomed dogs to butt dials to rehomed phones and then it just all compounded on top of each other. So if there is one other possibility, there's one other possibility, and nothing was ever proven that she did this in this way. So that would be my one and only question is, with what was presented, how could you not find her not guilty? Not find her not guilty? No, that doesn't sound right. How could you?
How could you not find her not guilty? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Double negative in this case works. Yeah.
What would your question be?
I really want to know if they did find her not guilty, as 5 of the jurors have now said for at least the top count, and that they were hung, some say 6-3, 6-6, 3, and then 3 not having no opinion. I don't know what it is on one of the lesser counts. That's what I want to know. So you're sitting there. How do you make a joke of the court system here? Because quite frankly, the court system right now is a joke if they're not going to find out from the jury, in my opinion, whether or not the jurors found her not guilty of the 2 counts, but because the slip or verdict form, as it's called, the slip in Massachusetts, who knows? It's not something you wear. I think those went out in the 50s. Didn't have the right questions. I mean, make a joke about the ridiculousness.
Be funny.
Of the court system.
Ready? Be funny.
Come on, here's your chance. Be funny.
I mean, it is so ridiculous. But that's what I love about it, because trials aren't necessarily about right and wrong. They're almost sometimes about who can argue the law better. And in certain cases like Baldwin, if you have the right people, they can find the technicalities. They can find the ways to get you out of the situation. Is that right or wrong? I don't know, but it's really fun to watch. And that's what I love about it, is it's just compelling. But I just watched the hearings. None of this is funny, and I apologize. I was just watching the hearings of the Secret Service. I don't know. I know that's a different type of situation.
It's still good. It involves crime.
But it was so interesting to watch that because there's zero fact checking and people just throw things out and I have no idea if it's true or not, and it sounds very concerning, and then they just move on. And I was thinking a lot about that, watching that, and then thinking how people are so confused. And when they go, watching cases, because this case is a great divide. Like there's people who are adamantly she didn't do it and people who are adamantly she did. And then there's a lot of us that are in between that are like, we have no idea what happened, but we know what was presented didn't prove a case.
Well, you'd be my perfect juror when we mock trial cases. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for the jury that they're going days and days, and then somebody stands up and raises their hand and said, "Look, our job is not to find whether or not she or he did it or not. Our job is to find whether or not the state proved the case beyond a reasonable doubt." So you are my perfect juror.
Yeah. Good luck.
You'd be rated number one. Good luck.
Yeah.
It's my dream. I feel like I'm ready to serve for jury duty, like a good case, let me, but that's never, you always just get something random for
Have you
jury
been called
duty.
to jury duty? You've been called?
I have. I served
Yeah.
one case and then I've never had to serve again, but because you call and then it goes away. I will tell you though, I know it won't happen. If Scott Peterson ever goes back to trial, I'll be in that courtroom. I will
You'll
be
move,
on that
you'll
case.
relocate so that you're in the right jurisdiction for the jury pool. What was the case you sat in on that you were in the box?
It was malpractice. So it was unfortunately a baby. Medical malpractice. Yeah.
So,
a baby who died during surgery. So it was a sad case. It was really sad. But again, you bring in these experts from both sides. And then it's just who's more credible.
So did they tell you, they shouldn't have, so I'm questioning that. Did they tell you about the limitations on malpractice in terms of what could be awarded? Did you find liability, first of all?
We didn't.
Oh, you did not? Wow. Okay.
We did not. We found that they acted in care that was reasonable.
Okay.
What they did not tell me, though, was that I don't know how I missed it. You don't get to keep your notes.
Right.
And I wrote a musical in the middle of it called Medazzalam because, there was. So I had a lot of very interesting notes, and I hope they're destroyed because there's some times in testimony that you really are writing stuff down, and sometimes there's just things that spark interest. And
it's funny you mentioned midazolam because there was a big fight. 10 years ago, the big fight was whether midazolam was going to be the drug to execute people with, and then they won't sell them. And the question is whether or not somebody really was in a deep sleep. They didn't know they were being killed, or they had pain, and there were experts on both sides. And then, of course, the drug companies wouldn't sell midazolam, giving it. They didn't want to have a bad name, associated with it.
We're the drug that kills people on death row. Okay, I can't see that on an ad. I can't see that.
Yeah,
maybe I don't know.
That was a big fight with that was the big fight with the AC/DC current and whether or not we'd have current. How the electric chair was run because people didn't want to be associated with having the current that they have, which is why we have the present current we do have with the electric chair. So kind of interesting that branding and money and corporate names, whether it's are still very important in the court system. So let me just ask you the final question then with Karen Reed. All right. If you had to ask her one question, what would you ask Karen Reed?
Oh wow!
That's what we are. That's why we're the lawyers in the court. You see, we get to do this for a living.
I want to know from her perspective what happened. I don't know if she would say that or not. That's the dream, is that she would tell you what really happened or what she remembers. I still think calling somebody, 53 times that night? You don't do that if you do maybe a couple phone calls, but that's an excessive amount if you really think someone was dead. That's a commitment to another level. So I really don't, I wonder from her headspace, feels like she maybe doesn't know what happened. I do wonder if she went back and was drinking when she got back to the house as well. And then was getting more and more angry and was drinking more while she was at the house, fell asleep, passed out, doesn't really remember what happened. but she did say that she thought she hit something, but she had a cracked tail light. So again, what could that have been? And then did she think that she did it because that's what everybody was telling her? And then as she started seeing what was going on, then she was like, wait a second. So I do wonder if she thought in those first 48 hours if she had done it, but now thinks maybe she didn't. Because that's so interesting. If you were in a altered headspace, something horrible happens and everybody is kind of treating you as though you did it, do you think you would take that on and believe you did it, or maybe she did do it?
The gaslight technique, because really, because you have the McAlberts, I call them, that family, helping her believe that her question, did I do it, is a statement of fact. Yeah. And I think her wondering about what happened, alcohol, sequence of events, is very natural. You're wondering, you're trying to replay in your head, how did we get here? How did he get there? Did I hit him? Did I, I that to me came off as very reasonable in how she reacted to finding out what had happened. Did I hit him? Did I do it? That didn't bother me at all.
And if she were interviewed by the cops in a real interview, at that point, we have this thing called the Innocence Project, as I mentioned, wrongful convictions. Part of it is wrongful convictions because the cops make you think that you did it as you question whether you did it. It goes back to the old movie, probably the best legal movie in my opinion ever, called My Cousin Vinny. And they came in review. Everyone's laughing whether or not the defendant robbed the store, right, in his little Buick. And they said, well, you were seen you coming out of the store with the can of tuna fish. And he says, I was? Meaning that, I was in that store and I robbed, versus I was? That's a question. So I think you are a true crime fanatic. I can't wait to hear the jokes. And maybe you'll be our juror next time if Karen Reed ever gets retried. Julie Lofrano, thank you. Anything else you want to close with?
Thanks so much.
Anything else you want to close with? I have an appearance at such and such. My dog will be waking up soon.
Oh, I feel like I should have grabbed my dog, but she's...
This is where I introduced the shameless plug portion of the program. So it's all yours.
Should I go grab my dog so you can see her?
Sure, show and tell. Why not?
Stevie, come. Hold on. I'll be right back.
All right.
That's my line. I'll be right back. And while she's waiting that, subscribe to our YouTube channel talking about famous plugs, Justice Served.
That's right.
We're
Good
on,
idea.
X Justice Served TV also. Oh my goodness gracious, she's definitely not.
Oh my gosh. Let me see. Is that Yoda?
She's very part elf, part Yoda. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, she's all ears. But you can find me. I'm at the Ice House most Saturdays. It's a 5:00 show. How fun is that? Home by 8. Right? Can't miss that. And I tell lots of jokes about my dog, and obviously love her so much. So she's been a great source of comedy. And then I do a lot of things, I love to talk serial killers. I love to talk true crime, and wherever I can try to make light of it, that's what you want to do. You want to take that tragedy and turn it into comedy. Or
all right, so tell us next time, let's talk serial killers. We have a friend who likes to talk John Wayne Gacy, if you know anything about that. Ooh, okay. We'll leave it to you to let us know. Julie Lofrano, thank you very much for joining Justice Served.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it.
If anyone knows a serial killer, please let me know. I'm Julie Lofrano. Thank you so much.